Welcome back to New Realities. I have with me today one of my favorite co-hosts, Suzanne Ross, and she is so excited about the upcoming event in September. She is going to tell you all about it. Suzanne, tell us what's happening, and our lovely guest you'll also introduce. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me back on, Alan. I so appreciate being on New Realities TV. I am so excited about my September fall equinox event being held right here in the magical, mystical Red Rocks of Sedona. This is a smaller, more intimate retreat experience I call the Sedona Transcendence Retreat, and it is all about transcendence. It does include on-stage presentations, sound journey performances, indoor workshops, and outdoor journeys led by the presenters. And so this 3-day immersive experiential retreat will have a powerful and positive life-changing impact on us all. It is a gathering of the like-minded spiritual community. And I couldn't be any more grateful that my dear friends, Mack, Kahn, and Joy Kahn will be joining us. They'll be offering a soulful evening with Matt and Joy. Welcome.
Wow. It's great. I never heard her introduced as Joy Kahn. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. We're so happy, and we're so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having us and for this conversation today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, last time we talked, you were not married yet, and you were, thinking about it. I'm glad you went through it. But I'm always fearful of that moment, but that's me. But tell me, how has things changed? What's the evolution of your connection? Because it was so beautiful, and I'm sure, how does that continue to make life more wonderful? Tell us about it.
Well, I would start off by saying that, since the day we met, Joy and I have been incredibly connected on all levels through the universe. And since getting married, every day our love grows leaps and bounds. We fall back in love with each other every single day. I personally propose to her every single day, multiple times a day. It's a fun spiritual practice, and it's a way that every day both Joy and I wake up as brand new versions of ourselves. So as these new versions of ourselves, we're recommitting and choosing each other all over again, sometimes several times a day. And really, for us, the marriage was just a celebration of the ever expansion of our love. And I think every day we have chances to grow together. We have opportunities to bring our work together in service for humanity. And, for us, there really isn't a challenge that doesn't do anything but bring us closer together. So it's been, not just the kind of love that you would call the honeymoon phase, but really just a deep communion with the divine as well.
Yeah. And I think then the evolution of that has gone to, just to kind of come back to your question, where does that go? I think we made it through that milestone of that commitment and really being able to bring that together personally. But then it created this opportunity to direct all of our focus and attention to what was coming through us together as a couple and to create the foundation for the work we're bringing into the world right now. So it's been really incredible.
Absolutely.
Dream come true, honestly.
The interesting thing you said is that the challenges bring you closer. That is something I'd like you to expand upon. And just talk a little louder, Matt, because you're
Sure.
a little... Oh, there, that's better. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You got it. Well, I think that challenges in everyday life, whether they're spiritual challenges, emotional challenges, personal challenges, is like a magnifying glass. And if there's something imbalanced or off kilter in the relationship, the challenge will reveal it. And if the work we've done in the relationship to connect has the chance to deepen the potency of our love, the challenge will reveal it. So I think in relationships, the problems when you talk to people who are in relationships are always talking about, well, here are the challenges that seem to pull us apart. But what we see is the challenges are just showing us where the imbalances are. And because Joy and I are both expanded beings expanded spiritual beings and grounded human beings, we connect on both aspects and both sides. And so, there was an unexpected hiccup that happened the day of our wedding, where we had to completely change wedding venues unexpectedly. And instead of being married outside at the Red Rocks of Las Vegas, the wedding took place inside of our hotel room. And it was, we had to make this sudden pivot. And it was just Joy and I doing what we do every day, whether it's with our dogs, whether it's with Joy's daughter, my stepdaughter. There isn't a challenge that can't be resolved with unity consciousness. And the movement of unity consciousness is teamwork. So what we find is that instead of things being about divide and conquer, it's about how can we do this together. And so every day, challenges are opportunities to strengthen the teamwork of our unity.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So I have to share this funny story, guys. When my husband and I were getting married almost 30 years ago now in Cambria, we had this vision of being married on the beach in Cambria. And we got there and it was super windy and the beach was really rocky, and we had to pivot to having it at the hotel we were staying at. Fortunately, there was a gazebo outdoors, and I went to the event planner at the hotel and I said, we're getting married tomorrow, we need the gazebo. And she's like, whoa, that's really last minute. And I'm like, well, is it available? Because we're getting married tomorrow. Okay. And she called the gardener and everybody got busy getting it all. And it turned out to be beautiful. So that's just kind of funny because we have some similarities in our relationship.
Well, I think for us, the gift of marriage is what we both wanted more than anything was to marry each other. So we have that, and through the gift of detachment, how life is just showing us the difference between our plan and the plan. So, if we can remain flexible, detached, and really focused on what's important, our highest values, and for us, our highest values are doing things together.
Yeah.
And we always get to do that. So it's great.
Well, what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that the love is more important than the ego glitches that come up, right? So the difficulty or the hiccups, it actually is a chance to look at yourself, look at where there's still work, because you have maybe a perfect reflection there. That reflection is showing you all the places where the work needs to be done. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Joy, but what I would say is that, what I want for myself, what's the highest for me, would also be a question I would ask myself. Would I make the same choice for her? Is this how I would treat her? So the best for me is what's best for her. And I think we've had that, vice versa. So I think it's kind of one of those things where like your ego will say, here's what I want. And then when your partner says, well, here's what I want, you can't be too attached to thinking that what you want is really the highest, because really what we both are completely in service to is not what I want or she wants, it's what we want.
Yeah.
And so every day we are serving and nurturing what we want, who we are, where we are going. And both of us wind up being more fulfilled individually by living as we, instead of two eyes trying to coexist and get along. So I think when it's two eyes, it's a dance of ego. When it is we and we are fully in what is best for us. And sometimes I has one possibility, but we and us is always the highest possibility. When you can serve that, there's a greater level of fulfillment and less likelihood that we have to do some sort of, like game of go fish. Like, okay, I've got this one and you got that one. We don't honestly, we don't negotiate anything. We literally always get the same impression. And all that matters is the highest for us and we, and it makes it so much more enjoyable and it's easier.
It's how we feel about the
You-
audience too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's all of us in this unity consciousness
That's
coming
right.
together. So we're behaving in private and in our lives in the same way that we are working with clients.
Absolutely.
Wow. Imagine if the world felt that way, that it wasn't the I, but it was a collective we with that E. Is that sort of what you'll be talking about at Suzanne's weekend? Or how does what's happening to you filter out to the world as a teaching? You know?
What I would say is that we have channeled from the universe, because we're both channels, what we call the 9 desires of divinity. And this process, which kind of redefines awakening and gives it a map and a new model in a very revolutionary way, is that when people hear us talk and they go, God, I would love to live in less of this I and more of this we and us, both with, the us being I and the divine, my partners, my relationships. And people say, well, how do I make that shift? So the map and the model of the 9 desires of divinity we've channeled is a process that takes people from the ups and downs of I-hood and into the paradise of us and we. And so when people hear this and they go, I'd like that in my relationship, I'd like that in my family, I'd like that with my relationship with divinity. What we've channeled is these 9-stage model of how the awakening journey can be seen in a brand new way. And it moves us out of the self-serving tendencies of I, which is not just like, for a lot of people, it's not necessarily that they're stuck in an agenda of I, but they're in an identity of I that makes them a victim to other people's agendas. So as a way of finding safety and sovereignty of the world, we move into the us and we of unity consciousness. And at this event, Joy and I are going to show people a brand new revolutionary way of experiencing it.
Wow, that's great, Suzanne, isn't it? That's going to be revealed at your event.
Definitely. And it is all about unity consciousness. And I love that everything that you are deciding on a daily basis, you're taking into full consideration how it affects the other person, how both of your roles affect one another, and always considering what's the highest good for all. And like Alan said, wouldn't that be wonderful? And, we are working towards that, especially in like-minded community, in the spiritual community. How can we ensure that every thought, word, and action is serving the highest good for the whole community and ultimately the whole planet? And I always have this greater vision of, all that is, right, in unity consciousness. So bless you for that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And what just came to me was, in unity consciousness, an easy way of thinking about the effect of unity consciousness is that it's kind of this energetic game of follow the leader. So I speak, I respond, and I choose as if what I demonstrate, even when no one's looking, is what the world will replicate and follow minutes, hours, or days later. So however I want the world to speak is how I speak to myself, my wife, my stepchildren, and to any person I meet on the street. How I want the world to choose is what I choose, whether the audience is there and no one's looking. If everything is a game of follow the leader and we are truly to be embodied bodhisattvas of this planet, then we realize the quantum field will start reflecting back to us the patterns we embody. So what we say, what we think, what we choose, and how we respond is telling the world the type of world we wish to attract. And so we take this as a living practice.
So everyone is the beloved, I think, is another way of maybe Rumi would put.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we feel that connection as the beloved, then even further, we take that I, and through the process we've created, we're breaking down that I to recognize the places where we've isolated ourselves in that I. And so that we can open ourselves up to that unity by recognizing that each desire that the divine has for us as the beloved becomes the thing that unites us all and that we belong after. So people really land into that truth.
This reminds me, I've interviewed Bruce Lipton a bunch of times, and he talks about the synergy of awareness. So when one cell hooked up with another cell, they did that to increase awareness. You look that way, I look that way. And they were a colony of cells. They weren't an organism yet, but something happens called the synergy of awareness, where you looking that way and I looking that way becomes merged into the totality of unity. So
That's right.
that is what he's saying should happen to all of humanity. The synergy of awareness, realizing we're really one organism with many different pieces instead of thinking we're separate. So what you're doing with your synergies are increasing that possibility that we can all form a synergy of the we-ness of awareness. So
I would even say that we are becoming aware of the synergy of awareness that is already in the process of expansion. Because to say that we all have to do something to make it happen is like saying the divine is not present in your life unless you believe in it. And like if we think about the synergy of awareness, we start out as the I, we end up as one. It starts as a capital letter I. It ends up as a Roman numeral 1. We go from I to 1, which is a whole different journey, but the I and the capital letter I and the Roman numeral 1 look identical. So we take an entire journey, and on some level, nothing changes because it was always aware, it was always one. We're just remembering what's always been the case.
so the we becomes the I, you're saying.
Yeah, I would say that first the I becomes the we, and then the we expresses itself through the I. So for example, how we act as individuals is fueled by the energy of both of our energies combined, or how an individual is fueled by the totality of divinity versus just by the pursuits and agendas of their individual ego. So it becomes a much bigger gas tank, becomes a much bigger point of impact. And again, what we're doing is we're reminding the world of the way things have always been as we wake up out of the dream of what we thought was.
Beautiful. That's a great way of being. So, but how do you translate that understanding to people that might be attending your workshops that are maybe very isolated, lonely, desperate, whatever they are? How does that work?
Well, I think, one of the ways that we do that is by helping to break down the process of remembering, of waking up, that it's a process of how we perceive reality, and to help people recognize that what they're feeling in that isolation is really normal and part of that process. So when we can embrace that, this feeling I feel of isolation, of loneliness, of not being connected or belonging is something that is a part of my awakening, now we can embrace it, and then we can use the tools that we're bringing forth in the conversation as sort of a bridge or stairs to the next realization, which then allows us to have this layered awakening that feels safe and comfortable, and we have the understanding of it so it doesn't feel so unknown, right? We can bring more knowns to this process, and I think that's really what we hope to bring.
Yeah, it's kind of like a butterfly, or I'm sorry, a caterpillar, having these experiences of inferiority, isolation, and worthiness. Now, the caterpillar could have its little journal and go to all its courses and go, oh, it's from all my traumas. Okay, maybe.
Right.
But in truth, the caterpillar is going through inferiority, unworthiness, and isolation because it hasn't been taught to recognize its cocoon yet.
Yeah.
Once it's able to see the cocoon, it goes, oh, I'm in a process. And then loneliness becomes solitude.
Right.
Boredom becomes stillness. Agitation becomes passion. And instead of the caterpillar psychoanalyzing itself and thinking that it's all these traumas that are causing it, it goes, that was only true when I didn't see the cocoon. Now that I see the cocoon, I can let go and allow a butterfly to emerge in my absence. And it's more about a rebirth instead of a slow, insufferable death. So I would say It's not about trying to not feel one way or thinking the divine only feels one way versus another. But when you start to see the cocoon you're in a process instead of it being a problem.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That is a beautiful way of putting the butterfly caterpillar story, because people use it a lot of ways, but
Thank you.
that's
Mhm.
Suzanne. Yeah, why don't you jump
I
in?
just have this vision of then this beautiful, colorful butterfly spreading its wings and flying and recognizing the other butterflies that are so beautiful too, and flying amongst them and recognizing their connection to each other and all that is. And so then inviting and inspiring people who may feel isolated or alone to have that courage to step out into the world and to join like-minded community, or to, come to events like ours, or just to seek out, maybe meetups in their own local community, to come together with others who can inspire them and energize them as well. I always say that we activate one another. And I notice that too. I live outside of Sedona, and sometimes I'll start to feel like, I feel a little isolated here, and step away from the computer, call somebody in Sedona and get together. And as soon as we get together, it's like this spark is ignited, and we both get really excited about what each other is doing, what each other is into. And maybe we'll go for a hike in the Red Rocks. And, I come home feeling on cloud nine. And so, really inspiring that connection with other like-minded souls, or, with your loved ones. So, giving people the courage to step out and to ignite within each other that divine spark.
Sure.
Absolutely. And it's understanding, right? So even having the courage, having more courage comes from understanding ourselves and understanding others, so that we can feel more inclined for that connection. And then courage isn't so big either. It's not such a big ask, right?
Absolutely. And, I think one of the greatest things about unity is that unity gives us the connection. It gives us the support. It gives us the friendship that develops the strength to actually learn how to be alone and not to feel separate or inferior. So I think the greatest thing about community and connection, right? The irony is, when I feel alone, I feel better when I connect with other people. But the irony is, we're connecting with other people to build up the strength to go back to our aloneness and to find it as a vision quest of solitude instead of a prison sentence of isolation. And so it's amazing how it kind of, like a figure eight, always comes full circle.
Right, because that person is there for you whether you're alone or together, that like psychically, emotionally, all that there's a connection.
Absolutely. And I think that, what's interesting about unity consciousness, this is what's coming to me right now. And, I've said this before, but in so many different ways. We know spiritually that we're all one. A lot of times, the way people imagine it is that we're all one character, or we're all one ego structure. But in the quantum field, where all is interconnected, one is just a vast empty stillness. So oneness is actually experienced as noneness. When we connect as one, like when Joy and I connect as one, which we live in this connection, both Matt Kahn and Joy Kahn disappear. The characters disappear. The relationship remains. So when you connect into one becomes none, because the spirit that is one with all is not formed. It is just consciousness. It is intelligence. It is love. It is essence. And so what's amazing is that the suffering of the planet is when the separate characters are trying to have the benefit of oneness, but don't realize that they have to kind of go through a process of awakening or disappear in order for that love to be there. So the love remains, the characters kind of vanish. One becomes none. And so when we come into community, it's not necessarily to connect in a way where we're going to hold on to each other when we're not around each other. It's, can we connect so deeply that we find the strength to, what Ram Dass would say, walk each other home, which is really to disappear into reality. Oneness is actually noneness. And when we are spirit, we feel invisible. And there's a lot of people who don't know they're going through awakenings. They go, why do I feel invisible? Because they're already in their essence. And so then the form of Mack, Kahn, and Joy Kahn is a gift. It's a dream. It's, I'm totally invisible. I am, and yet I'm appearing as this magnificent character in this really cool blue shirt. This is my wife, and how cool is that? And we get to play this movie out, and it's a movie of oneness being performed by spirit, by formless consciousness or love. And so then being a person is not less than spirit. Being a person is the place spirit vacations.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And becoming safe with that.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the part of the journey is we come up against that and then we feel like something's wrong because I'm losing all of that. And that's, I think, where, you know, we both feel really pulled to bring more safety and peace to the process so that feels accessible to everyone.
Well, and you just to add a little thing too, is like some people in relationships, when they lose themselves in a relationship, when one person loses themselves and the other person stays in their ego consciousness, it becomes a liability. When both people lose themselves into the same oneness, reality awakens. And so we're here to come together to lose ourselves in the moment, to become so present in the moment that trying to micromanage our experience or figure out where we are and how long till we ascend, all of that you wake up from. And it literally is just one appearing as many.
Wow. Suzanne, this is going to be a fantastic transcendence retreat with this kind of understanding, right? Because this is an example of actual transcendence. They're not talking about it. They are actually doing something about it, you know?
Well, and what I was thinking when we were talking about like the aloneness and just recalling decades ago when I really, you know, felt I was on this, you know, powerful awakening path, and every day I felt more intricately interconnected with all that is all around me. And as I developed that profound sense of oneness with all that is, I never felt alone again, right? Because that expanded awareness lets you know that you are one with all that is, and life is all around you always. Even with that expanded awareness, I started to become aware of like entities and beings and energy sparkling around me. And it's so interesting that I have psychics, channelers, and mediums at the Sedona Transcendence retreat, because through the Seth material, I became really fascinated by the death and the death condition and the afterlife. And, you know, basically what Seth is saying is that any experience of reality is literally just projecting your consciousness into that reality and really affirming that, you know, at any given time, we as an essence are literally projecting our consciousness into multiple realities all at once. And even with intention, you know, we can do that. And so fascinating that we're bringing together psychics, channelers, and mediums who are all just really interdimensionally intuitive. Tell me what you guys see yourself offering on your outdoor journey during our retreat.
Oh boy, I mean, what are we gonna do?
Well, I think, you know, I really love what Suzanne was just saying,
Yeah.
because on this journey, and I think a lot of people coming into this event are having some of these experiences and looking for more and more of that. We start to really want to have more of these incredible experiences with beings and different dimensions. And so when we think about going outdoors and connecting with nature, it creates the opportunity to connect with life in that way and to connect with the beings that are all around us. But one of the things that we'd really love to bring to the experience is the experience of what it is to be one of those beings. So rather than only connecting with the, the energy out there that seems like it's greater than or bigger than ourselves, we're really inviting people to see that we are that. And it's time for us to really feel that while we are with them so that we can take our place in that conversation rather than waiting for them to tell us something. We can be in this mutuality together of sharing information and ideas and experiences because we light their world up too. It's not just them that are creating these experiences for us. We don't fully understand. I think when we channel, we get that experience of they're lit up to be with us. And so we want everyone to feel that. The dimensions are thrilled to be here with us. So really taking that place, I think, is the gift.
It's amazing to think about. We have, we have decks of oracle cards with different masters and angels on them, and masters and angels have cards with us on them. And so we're all in awe of each other. And I think giving people who are watching this and attending the event the opportunity to experience, instead of being someone in search of spirit, actually be one with the spirit that's always seeking you.
Yeah.
And what I loved earlier, what you said, Suzanne, about aloneness, and obviously both of us come together and all of our teachings are flavored with the vibration of love. So if we add an extra L for love to alone, alone becomes all one.
Yeah.
And so we were excited for the event and to bring people out of aloneness into all oneness, and to give people a chance to, instead of feeling separate from spirit, how to experience life as the spirit always seeking you.
Yes.
Beautifully expressed. And I love how you said mutuality, because where I thought you were going to go, and I love where you went, but is the attendees also participating in what unfolds based on what they're seeking. So it becomes, all spirit and yourselves and the attendees together, sort of designing the unfoldment together.
Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And
Only way to roll.
but so when you're in that place, I mean, you're probably in it most of the time, of oneness, does those other levels start to become more accessible? Or, I mean, they probably always have been in some ways, but do they take on a different texture of aliveness, or how does that change? You know what I'm saying? So you're in an increased state of awareness and then this expansion. I mean, does that? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a question we get kind of in different ways all the time. But as you become more acclimated or familiar with different dimensions, there's a less of a shock and awe value to it. And so then you can get past that part of like going to Disneyland for the first time, where you're seeing everything and you're just kind of like trying to take it all in. Once you're no longer doing that, it becomes a very familiar place to be. And so the barrier between you becomes less and less, and you recognize the oneness with all of these dimensions. And so it becomes not only more accessible, but you can receive more of the experience. It's definitely how, a way we've talked about it in the past. But
absolutely. And I think there are stages of awakening where you awaken to a consciousness where you're like a radio antenna tuning to different frequencies. And both of us have had that experience. In the beginning of awakening, there's a lot of otherworldly phenomenon, and it can trick people into thinking that this is the way you're supposed to live and be all the time. When you keep going up the levels of consciousness, as you keep evolving and embodying and integrating your spirit, those experiences actually start happening less and less, because when you are the center of the sun, you are so close to the center of the brightness, you can't actually feel the heat like when you think you're separate from it. So the only way you experience the heat and brightness of the sun is by seeing the people the rays are warming from afar. So as you keep integrating into this, and I think it's actually something people are afraid of. They're afraid of, oh, I had my spiritual phenomenon. I was this radio receiver of spirit. I was talking to angels, and then all of a sudden it started to go away. I must have fallen out of spirit. I must have fallen back into ego. And actually, the higher you go into mastery, the less those experiences happen, because you are no longer separate from spirit. So you perceive those experiences less. You are just the source of those experiences. So for example, I may have less wildly esoteric experiences than I used to, but I can sit silently in a room and other people will start having brand new esoteric experiences. We can be the source of their inspiration instead of having to always be in that experience. And so it's not as if that is good or bad. It's just one level is, oh my God, I didn't know I had this awareness and capacity. But then it becomes another dream to wake up from. There's a level where I remembered my past lives. Then there's a level where past lives are a dream, and this is my first and only lifetime. That's why it's called being born again, which is not religious, it's spiritual. So it just depends on the level of consciousness, the floor in the building, and the thing that's always true is every stage, it's building upon one another, but every stage is totally different. So you just learn not to be attached. Like it's like this right now, but it can change in the next breath. And if we can learn to be that detached, we can see the gift in having bigger experiences, and we can feel the gift of being freed from the dependency on those experiences.
Well, the question that comes up looking at you two together is that, you know, there's this oneness there, you and that, but there's other people out there. Can you bring those other people into the oneness? So, you know, whoever, not in that kind of relation, but the oneness of feeling, because there you have it together. So I mean, I'm not criticizing, but it feels a little exclusive to you, which is, it is, but how do you bring other people into the oneness that you share? And, you know, I mean, it's relationshipable.
Yeah.
What I would say, and it's only exclusive, Alan. I mean, if you want to be in the oneness, you're going to have to do some training in your house. But everyone's got to do something. But what I would say is that the biggest misunderstanding, if we just listen to the question, and questions always give away the direction.
Yeah.
People will always say oneness, and in the same sentence will say feeling. And we think oneness is a feeling. Feelings can be the way we sense it through contrast, because we go, I was isolated. Now the contrast is I feel connected. And we think that difference is a feeling called oneness. It's really just a contrast, just like it was a hot day in Arizona, then I felt a cool breeze. And now I know what a cool breeze feels like because it contrasts the sweltering hot day. But really, oneness is not actually a feeling exclusive. And if it's exclusive, you have spiritual paths, you have indoctrinated practices, you have all these things that say do this or get rid of this to try to try to make this feeling stay. In reality, oneness is not a feeling, it is the observer and witness of all feelings. Just in the same way, a wave doesn't need to be a certain way to be the ocean. It's just at some moment, the ocean wakes up as a wave.
Yeah, there's a field,
Yes.
right? And I'll meet you there. And that's so literal because there is a quantum field and it has a frequency of oneness. And anyone who wants to come into this field need only enter into the field. And entering into the field is something that you can use your feeling and emotion to help direct you, like Matt was saying. But ultimately, it's anyone's choice to move into the field. And Matt and I each were in the field before we met each other,
right.
Which is how we had a multidimensional experience when we met. We met physically, but we were in the field the moment we met. And so we met each other there too. And that's the place. So anyone can come into this experience. They need only continue getting curious and exploring the field so that oneness is familiar. And anyone else who's familiar with the field we'll meet you there and they'll meet us there. That's it. It really is that simple, but we've complicated it.
And I would say that
Beautiful.
feeling oneness is kind of like you said to someone, what does your breath feel like when you pay attention to it? Your breath doesn't feel any which way. What you're going to feel is the contrast between ignoring your breath and focusing on it. So everyone is already one. Our energy just brings them into these, the surprise birthday party spirit's having in its own honor that we forgot we're attending, right? We all feel like extras in our life and forgot we're the main character in our life's movie. This is just a remembrance. And so it's easy to misunderstand this. It's easy to try to make life one way versus another. But when really spirit calls us home, it finds us exactly as we are, which is why whether you're a beginner, an advanced practitioner, or at any level of spiritual advancement, we invite you to come to our program, at Suzanne's event, and knowing that at any stage, the revelation always only deepens, and this seemingly exclusive energetic party is actually the greatest demonstration of diversity.
And I just want to say, I have had lunch or breakfast with Matt and Joy, and it was like stepping into the bubble of love and being one with them in this beautiful sharing of this loving energy. And it's not as if they're lost in one another and not, aware of your presence. You are enfolded into the love that they have for one another. It's extended outward to you. And so then there's this bubble around all three of us. And in an event type of environment, you can imagine their love expanding to include everyone in the venue. And now we're all together in this bubble of love.
Yes.
Beautiful. That's a good selling point, Suzanne. Not that we're selling. No, but that's great. That will get people there to experience the oneness because you're generating it in a sense. You're in the field, and the field is contagious. It's activating. Beautiful.
Well, it's just everything we do is just an invitation. So it's an invitation, and when it's time for the invitation to be accepted, we all feel our yes, and we all find ourselves exactly where we're meant to be. So everyone that's meant to gather is going to join us, and it's really just for both of us just quite an honor to serve not only the universe, to serve our beloved Mother Earth, but it's an honor to serve in the name of love. It really is.
Great. This is going to be a fantastic event. Suzanne, tell people how to get their tickets, see Matt and Joy and everyone else. And thank you, guys. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's expand this.
Okay, here we are. September 19th.
Yes,
Oh, go
September 19th through 21st. And so it falls right on the fall equinox, which I just love it when that happens because my spring and fall events are meant to be honoring the equinox and really feeling into that powerful equinox energy where the veil between realms is thin. And we can take advantage of that during these equinox retreats. Yes, it is psychics, channelers, and mediums demonstrating their gifts and teaching their techniques. So I'm really excited to have this blend of presenters that represent those intuitives who are tapping in to parallel realities, maybe personalities of who they are being in other realms or personalities of past loved ones for the mediums. Our mediums will be doing gallery readings, which will be really interesting to see that. And then, of course, in the indoor workshops, sort of teaching their techniques, and then, of course, going out on the land. I'm really excited about Lisa Royal Holt guiding a CE5 experience, and that is a contact experience of the fifth kind, CE5. She channels a being, Sasha, who actually guides a very unique type of CE5, where we are telepathically communicating with those extraterrestrial beings who may be coming into the reality either physically or maybe just, you know, through consciousness. And so Matt and Joy, you're invited. Alan, of course, I'll look forward to attending as well. We are selling out of those CE5 tickets, so it is an add-on pass. You have to have a general admission pass or Transcendence or all access pass to participate. But we will be doing that under the stars on Saturday night. So lots of fun stuff. I really look forward to it. I'm so glad that my dear friends, Alan, Matt, and Joy will be joining us. And you are all, of course, invited to join us as well. You can use Matt and Joy's code for a 10% discount, Matt and Joy 10. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Joy, Matt, and I would say keep up the good work. But it's like you're just doing what you're doing, and it's beautiful. And thank you, Suzanne, for always being here with me. And on these
Thank you, Alan, for having us. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Mwah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good